Hey, what's up? Coffee Conversations with Greg J is on. Been a minute, huh? Yeah, took a little break. Been like really busy around these parts, but we are still dedicated to giving you information, inspiration from a globally, culturally relevant perspective. Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Today, we're all about that arts and culture, especially from our communities. And man, I've been getting these notices in my email. Hopefully, you have been too, about the Sisters Doing It For Themselves Film Festival. That's right, Black Hollywood Educational Resource Center at it again. Sandra Evers Manley is here. Let's see here. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Greg. It's always an honor to be with you and your incredible listeners. It's
Yay,
so
thank
great to be here.
thank you. Wow, look, now they say we outside. The pandemic is over or not,
Or
but
not, right?
right,
Be
or
careful,
be
everybody.
careful, everybody, right? So, but we're out here, we're adjusting, and we're beginning to get together face to face. And I know that as we have gone through these last couple of years, I always like to say that we've been we are in a cultural revolution whereby we're really now focused even the more on telling our own stories. And I know this has been a mission that the Black Hollywood Educational Resource Center has been about for years and years and years. And I know we're going to talk about the Sisters Doing It For Themselves Film Festival, but I'd love to get your perspective now as an arts and culture executive, a Hall of Fame arts and culture advocate, executive, pioneer. What is your take now with what we have to do to tell our own stories?
Well, thank you, Greg, and thank you for making me a pioneer. I feel honored and a Hall of Famer. Whoo, I got to tell my family about it. But let me just say, I think art, I think culture right now is so critical, especially when we
Mhm.
look at our history being attacked, especially when we look at individuals who I call the book banners, who want to ban our books, who really want to cut our history off at the roots. We've got to be about telling our stories. We've got to be about sharing our stories. We cannot let this injustice that we see in places like Virginia and Florida um, ex- just have this front row seat and be able to take our history away from us. And so it's important for us to tell our stories. It's important for us to share our stories. And it's also important for us to push back that our stories are not forgotten, our history is not forgotten. And so this work that we do, it's about purpose to make sure that we help creatives get in the film and television industry, that we help support the arts no matter where we are in the world.
As I serve my post as the board president for the Arts Council for Long Beach, I've been able to travel to Sacramento and participate in some really strenuous advocacy for the arts. And along with hundreds of other arts and culture organizations across the state, and I see where the government is really trying to make sure that a funding is there for arts and culture organizations, particularly for arts and culture organizations of color serving African American and other underserved communities. Uh, is your How do you see now the new creative economy, kind of blustering out in these post COVID, post George Floyd days?
Well, I think a couple of things, Greg. First, let me just say I still don't think we see enough funding for the arts. I still think in a lot of our schools, art is missing. And so we need that. Our students need it to help feed their soul, to help them create and tell stories, to bring about great art pieces. We just had in February our Youth Diversity Film Festival. And this year, that festival was painful. It was joyous, but it was painful because young people used art to express what was happening to them. A lot of the films dealt with mental health. A lot of the films dealt with bullying, cyberbullying in particular. A lot of those films dealt with girls who were being harassed. And so it is art that they were able to pull out the pain, but also find healing. And so I believe that we've got to continue to put as much money as we can in the arts. The other thing I think we've got to do is we've got to recognize our creatives. And so I think, right now there's a strike going on in Hollywood with the Writers Guild, and those writers deserve to be paid. And so I think it's important for us to understand what are some of the dynamics that are happening. The other thing I will say that in our local communities, so many of our after school programs have been cut. So many of our after school programs can't bring in art programs. And so it's important for us to find ways to counter that. And so I believe post COVID, when we had so many people who were isolated, that it really impacted mental health, especially even greater among young people and children. And one of the best places to help bring about change is through the arts, whether it's dance, whether it's through fine arts, or in our case, filmmaking and more, music. So we cannot underestimate the power of the arts. The other thing that I will say in the case of filmmaking, people judge us based on the images they see or do not see and how those images are portrayed. I can remember going with a friend, and we went overseas to several countries, and they continued to ask him two questions: are you an athlete? Are you a rapper?
Mhm.
That was their image
Wow.
of black men in many countries, because those are the images that they see on a regular basis. And so
Mhm.
that's why the work that we do, we believe is so important, that we want to make sure people see us in all kind of dimensions, all kinds of careers. We want them to see the Greg J's of the world.
Mhm.
And that's why those perspectives and lens is so important.
Mhm. Mhm. Very, very profound. Now, in this work, one thing that I've seen, I do see significant amounts of money flowing through in the name of arts and culture, particularly in California. I think Governor Newsom, I do have to give him props because I see it for myself, right? It's like he's putting this money out there. But I really do wonder, down here on the ground, are our communities receiving their fair share? And before I tell this little story here, I will say that I participated in a grant panel for the California Arts Council, and they were very intentional in that as we reviewed the various, grant proposals, they were very intentional in like really seeking out arts organizations and artists of color, filmmakers, visual artists, museums, galleries, the whole shebang. And it was a very interesting exercise, but I do wonder, is the money really reaching our community? Now, I was at Crenshaw High School in Los Angeles not too long ago, and they have a beautiful, you hear me, beautiful 20 plus $1 million auditorium performance venue. That place is fly. Okay. But the funding is great that came out through a bond issue, but now, they're hard pressed to find the funding to get instructors to teach the young people about the craft, right? Venue operation, the, drama, when I was a kid, we had drama class, those types of things. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And so that's why it begs the question, do you think that even though there's money flowing, are we getting our fair share in Black and Brown communities? And if not, what do we need to do to advocate to make sure?
So let me just say there's always room for improvement. And I
Mhm.
think, when I was in the giving world before I retired, I think I hadn't retired before I was on here the last time, but I'm now retired. But one of the things in the giving world is really about access. Sometimes when we look at, and I like to refer to some of our mom and pop nonprofits, those nonprofits who are on the ground doing the real work, being that safety net. A lot of those groups do not have the access to get to some of these institutions who are giving money. And so,
Mhm.
unless those institutions are down there seeing who are doing the work, sometimes we don't see the kind of outcome of these groups getting some of those grants. And so, I think we've got to be about the business to go to these nonprofits, go to these institutions. I want to talk about Crenshaw.
Mhm.
I've seen the facility and it is amazing. Um, One of the things I think we've got to do, if you look at, unfortunately, the current student population at Crenshaw, it is at an all-time low. And so
Mhm.
one of the things we've got to do as a community is to make sure that that facility is serving the Black and Brown community, and that it's not just sitting still. There are groups out there. There's everything from the Amazing Grace Conservatory that that are out there doing work, and there's others that are out there doing work that they can do programs there in a heartbeat. BHERC, right now, we're looking for a facility to do a summer youth film camp. And we've been going to building to building. I've actually went over to Crenshaw, still waiting for a phone call back. But we're there, willing, ready to go. We've got animators, we've got individuals in sound, editing, who are willing to give up their time and trying to get into some of these facilities. It's been very hard.
You know, I will speak for Amazing Grace Conservatory because I'm actually beginning to link alongside Wendy Raquel Robinson. The next,
Phenomenal.
yes, the next production is The Wiz, and we will be at the Crenshaw High School Performing Arts Center.
Yay! Then
Yay,
that
yay,
brings music to my heart because I
yes.
think when you look at the work that Wendy does, when you look at the work of the Debbie Allen Dance Academy, these groups, Fernando Pullman, what they're doing for the arts is they're beating soul, hope, and lifting up our community. So that's great. I can't say enough about Amazing Grace and the other organization. Truly,
Mhm.
Wendy is what, and Debbie and Fernando, those individuals are heroes and sheroes and godsend to thousands of young people in the arts.
Thousands, yeah, that's real talk right there.
Yeah.
Really, really good. And man, that's the enrollment is low there. I know I had heard that, and I actually always also heard. I even thought they were short on their football team, but I heard they went to the playoffs and everything. So they had enough people to go high in the ranks. But they have a legacy of sports and entertainment. I know, the legendary Iris Stevenson was from Crenshaw.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So
I
that's
can
that's
remember when we had one of our first sisters, the choir came and sung for us.
nice. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about sisters doing it for themselves. This is the film festival I have attended in the past before, and excited to try and attend this time. But as we now are celebrating, womanhood, the sisterhood, as I call it, we're celebrating the sisterhood, especially in these days and time. How important is a festival like yours to grooming and attracting and inspiring, that's the word I want to use, young women, especially women of color, towards the filmmaking profession?
Just think about Greg 30 years ago. When we started this festival, it started out of a program I was doing called Doing It the Independent Way. And it was when I was taking short films to the different studios once a quarter. And at that time, one of the participants was a gentleman named Ralph Scott, and he came on to become our festival director. And we were talking one day. He said, Sandra, I'm starting to see a trend, an increased number of Black women directors. But we
Mm.
continue to hear from Hollywood. I said, we continue to hear from Hollywood. They're not there. And so he and I looked and I said, hey, Women's History Month is March. So going forward, every March, we're going to do this film showcase. And we
Mm.
started it 30 years ago. And I will just tell you, we've had some phenomenal women who have screened their films, emerging filmmakers, seasoned filmmakers. We've had everybody from Gina Prince Bythewood, Casey Lemons, Ava DuVernay, Lena Waite. Our goal was to provide a format, a forum where Black women could show their films, where they could have dialogue, where they could create a community. And
Mm.
what we have seen over the years, it has grown. We wanted no one to tell us that that talent did not exist. I will tell you this year we had over 1,063 submissions. And so I will say we have incredible students coming out of the film school. But Greg, I'm proud to tell you we've got a young lady out of Long Beach, individuals who are doing films in their garages. And
Nice.
so for us, we're letting individuals know that Black excellence, Black women directors are thriving and they're surviving, but they're
Mm.
also creating forums to have safe dialogues about what it's like to be in an industry that often has left us out and behind. And so we're excited. The storytelling, everything from sci-fi, drama, comedy, unbelievable stories that will make you proud. Some of them will make you think, and some of them will do like me. Our festival director, John Forbes, sometime I'll just go, that was an interesting film. But I will just tell you, I am so proud of our 2023 cohort. This year, from May 19th through May 21st at the Directors Guild of America, we will screen 23 films over the weekend. Our opening night, we will screen 5 films. But we're also going to screen, let me tell you this, Greg, we have been around and we're going to screen a film by a woman named Eloise Guess that was done
Mm.
in 1933. And it's a silent,
Wow.
wow. It's a silent film. We're going to show a clip of it. And then on Sunday, we will show that entire film. But we've been around. Black women directors have been around. We're also going to
What's
show,
the date again?
pardon me,
What's the date again?
it's next Friday, May 19th at
May
the
19th.
Directors Guild. And that's
Yeah.
our opening celebration. We will be showing films. We're also going to show a film called Tuesday Morning Ride. And it's
Nice.
done by a woman named Diane Houston. And Diane, unfortunately, is fortunately, but unfortunately, she's the first and today still the only Black woman ever nominated in the short film category. And if you want to see a tearjerker of a film, a powerful film, we will be showing that on Friday night as well, along with some of the short films by the emerging Black female directors.
Ooh, I
And
love
then
this.
and then on Saturday morning, we kick off at 9 o'clock. And our first panel is called Where Are They Now? And we're going to showcase 2 short films, one called Soleil, and it is an animated piece by the Gibbs sisters. They're 2 twins, Shawnee and Chanel, and they're incredible animators. And this is an incredible teaching film, and we'll be showing that. The other film we'll be showing is by a young woman named Nicole Thompson. Nicole is actually one of our scholarship recipients as well. And we will be showing her film called Blackbird. And it's about a young woman who always wanted to be a pilot. I'm not going to tell the story, but again, incredible. After
Wow.
those 2 films are shown, we have a panel called Careers in Hollywood. And individuals will be able to see Black women just like them. We've got Bobby Banks, who's the first Black sound editor. She will be
Hmm.
talking. We've got several of our Black women who have worked in the executive suites who will be talking. We've got a Black locations manager. We got a Black woman who is in the makeup and costume who will be speaking. Following that panel at 10:50 to 11:50, we have a panel directors on directing. And we've got several of our Black women directors who will be talking about directing. And then from there, we go into several more short films that individuals will be able to see. And then on Sunday from 3 to 7, we close out with several short films that are powerful, that are incredible, and they're all done by sisters who are doing it for themselves. And we are inviting the community to come out to help us uplift these young women, to say we're behind you. We have been, here's one of the tragedies, Greg, that I have found through this process. We have been trying to go into schools to say, hey, we want your students to come to get this information. We want to provide, if we've got to provide buses, if you have 75 kids or more, we're willing to help. And it's just been unbelievable, some of the blocking are just saying, oh, we can't do that. That building is not approved for us to take our key. It's just been unbelievable, some of the things we've had to go through. And for us, it's about the information. It's about the inspiration. And that's what Sisters is all about. You know, Nicole, for example, said, I always wanted to be a filmmaker since I was 13. I had another filmmaker say the other day, Sandra, Sisters was the first place I got to see my film on the big screen. And you have no
Nice.
idea what that meant. Or another young woman said, several of the women directors who were in the business, they took me in and mentored me, let me shadow them for the day. And so this is truly a celebration, but it's also to let people know that Black women directors are thriving, that they're here, and that we want to see more of our stories told in Hollywood and beyond.
I'm really loving this. I'm so inspired. I'm not a sister, but I'm down with the sisterhood.
Well,
I
we
mean,
want
this
you
is
to
really,
come. It's
really
open
good.
to it's open to everybody. It's
Mhm.
open. We just felt 30 years ago we were not seeing the number of Black women being highlighted and showcased. And we felt it
Sure.
was important. And we still believe when we look at the statistics, there's still much more room to be done in Hollywood. And even when
Mhm.
our filmmakers, if we look at Gina Prince Bythewood, was our first filmmaker who we gave a scholarship to when she was a student. And then we
Mhm.
showed two of her films in Sistas. What she
Wow.
did with The Woman's King, you know, still box office success, global phenomenon, still
Sure.
have to fight for the right to be treated just like those who don't look like her.
Wow. Wow, that's really, really something. Well, let me ask you this, going back to the schools and the buses and everything. I mean, is it too late? Or, if I can be of assistance, I think I know a couple of schools. And what's the age group? Let me say it.
So
Let me
I
start
would
there.
encourage for this festival because these are some very creative young women, high school on up.
Okay. Yes.
And so if you want to reach out to me and let us have a conversation, our goal is, we've had a number of people said, hey, Sandra, I'm in New York. I'm here, but I'll provide a scholarship. I'll pay for 10 students. So if there are individuals that have interest, more, let's have that conversation. My
Right. You got
goal
to
is
do.
let's fill the seats. And I will
Mhm.
tell you, no one will be disappointed.
That's right. Oh, I love this. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, let me ask you this now. Uh, Outside of this formal setting, I sure would also like to talk to you about, film showcases, panel discussions like this, maybe like in Long Beach is interesting. I would love for you to say the name of the person from Long Beach for us so that I could amplify her name across the Arts Council for Long Beach and everything and let the people know. I'm sure the mayor, our first Black mayor, Rex Richardson, had a meeting with him today, and talking about
Okay.
arts and culture and everything. And I'm sure he would like to know who this young star is coming out of his city, so that we can send her vibrations of peace and love.
Absolutely. And I think the city would be very proud of her. This is not her only film. That's
Oh,
what I'm
nice.
excited about is that, we've got to continue to provide access and visibility to and for these filmmakers. And her name is Britt Banks.
Britt Banks. All
Britt,
right. Britt
Brit.
Banks, straight out of the beach,
Yes,
LBC.
there you
Good
go.
stuff. Yeah, nice, nice, nice. Now, now you kind of touched on it early on, the writer's strike and everything. And I thought it was, it's a different day now. And as I
Mhm.
look at, the reasons, their touch points on why they are on strike, it's a different day. And even in the music business, the economics are certainly different now with streaming and thus and so. And so I would imagine that writers, like just like music artists, their paychecks are a little smaller and everything. But what really caught my attention was, they pointed out AI as kind of a hindrance or a threat to, the future of their work. And with
Mhm.
AI taking over everything right now, I got to admit, I'm in the back lab messing around with it too, trying to see, what can I create with this, with this new, or not so new, but new technology. How do you see AI taking over for good, for better or worse, the film industry?
So I think it goes beyond the film industry. I have a friend of mine out of Washington, D.C., and he recently sent me a book that he did, and it was all totally animated through AI.
Wow.
And for me, he was excited. That's great. That's wonderful. And I said, wow, what about the artists who paint, draw, sketch? If everybody goes to this AI to do this, that impacts our artists. So I
Mhm,
think it's important for us. I mean, I'm a big supporter and proponent for technology, but I think we also got to understand it. And we've
mhm,
got to look at how it's being used and what is it doing, how does it impact us. And
mhm,
so I just think there's more to learn, more to understand, and we've just got to be prepared. I also
mhm,
think we've got, as people of color, as Black people, other people of color, we've got to understand the impact on AI too.
mhm.
Because when I looked at some of the images in his book, and who they were supposed to have been portraying, I was like, who is that?
They didn't get it right.
Yeah, no,
That's
they
what I'm.
did not get it right, and that's my
Yes.
concern. We've got to make sure they get it right. And
You
oftentimes,
know,
when it comes to Black people and other people of color, sometimes they don't get it right, and that's why we see
that's
here
so
with
funny, Sandra, because I was looking at the one news report, and the police were having these robot dogs they were testing out, and they were controlled by AI, how to neutralize a suspect with these little robot dogs. And they found that the recognition, when it got to like trying to identify a Black person, it just goes haywire. So even in the minutia of designing technology, what that it really is, here we are, still marginalized.
yes,
So we have to, yeah, that's why we got to tell our own stories, even in the AI space.
even in the AI space. And Greg, we have so many stories to tell.
Hmm.
There's so many of our stories that have been left out and forgotten. We've had so many individuals like the Julie Dashes of the world who did Daughters of the Dust, who have done all kinds of stories. We've had stories. There's a story that's going to be coming out by Tyler Perry called The 6888, and it's
Hmm.
about the first Black all-female World War II unit.
Hmm.
Individuals have been trying to get that story done for many years. And Hollywood said, oh, that didn't exist because they never put it in our history books. And
Hmm.
so we got to tell our stories, and everybody's a storyteller.
Hmm.
Everybody, you've got grandparents, and I encourage everybody, since becoming a member of the Academy, I've fallen in love with documentary filmmaking. And I
Hmm.
encourage everyone to document if their mom, dad, grandparents, great grandparents, get those stories. You can't beat them. I went to Mississippi, and I'll be heading there. The 8th through the 12th will be commemorating the 60th anniversary of when my cousin Medgar Evers was killed. But we went for our family reunion a few years ago, and my oldest brother, we went to the house where they grew up. And he
Mhm.
put his hand on the mailbox and he said, I remember when Mama used to go to work, we had to go under that house until her best friend would come and pick us up. And she taught us these
Mhm.
survival skills. And I
Mhm.
told my nephew, my brother's son, I said, Rob, you need to get that on tape.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Wow.
I said, we may not sell it to the world, but you need to tell it to all your nieces and nephews.
Yes.
These are our stories. So I encourage families to tell their stories. I've started this program called Legacy, and it's really going out interviewing individuals. I interviewed a gentleman out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he started his own garbage company, and it's been around for over 40 years. And you know why he started it, Greg? Because the
Hmm.
white garbage companies would not pick up black people's trash.
Wow. What town
And
is that?
I
Washington?
can't think of the town right now. I'll send it to you. But when his daughter told me that, I said, "But your dad let me get him on tape," and
Ah,
he said yes. And
nice.
um, we've got stories to tell, and
Mm,
in these stories they're learning, they're teaching moments.
mhm,
And so right now I am really on a mission that we've got to tell our stories. We've got to make sure our history is not forgotten.
mhm, mhm,
we're in a fight.
mhm. Yeah,
We are
I
in a
agree.
huge fight. When anybody says, I don't want my child to read a book about Rosa Parks or Ruby Bridges. Are you for real right now, people?
Right, right, right. I agree 100%. Let me ask you, okay, a lot of people who may be filmmakers or who may even have the idea for, especially in the documentary world, are very much interested in this space right here. I got a couple of them.
Hmm.
Um, People seem to be looking for the financial home run in order to find the resources to get their documentary done. But oftentimes the story can't wait. It just needs to be told. It needs to be,
Right.
what's the best way for an independent, you know, documentary filmmaker to begin? Like, what's the first step?
Well, I think first writing down the story they want to tell.
Hmm.
What's it about? And then what I will tell you, so you and I talked about collaborating. I would be more than willing to put together something for the city of Long Beach on
Nice.
introduction to documentary filmmaking.
I got you. I got you. We go.
Okay, so the invitation is there.
All right.
And the other thing we can do is also show some documentaries.
Okay.
We've got a couple of documentaries that we help to fund. Right now, we have one that it's done by a young man named Mobilaji, and it's on Amazon. It's called Ferguson Rises, and it's
Mm-hmm.
about the killing and life, the aftermath after Mike Brown was killed in Ferguson, Missouri.
Wow.
But we've helped several young people with their documentaries. And before I left Northrop Grumman, one of the things I wanted to do was to promote STEM education, science,
Mhm.
technology, engineering, and math. And so we worked with a filmmaker to do a documentary on the James Webb Space Telescope, which Northrop built out in Redondo Beach, California. And
Nice.
so we wanted to excite young people. And so I'm pleased to say I truly believe in the power of documentaries and storytelling.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah. So we'll get right on into that. There's this discussion about STEM, and then
Mhm.
there's a advocacy group that says we need to insert arts into there, so it's STEAM.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That answers the question.
Yeah, I've had a discussion. Our dear friend um, Quincy Jones, one time he and I were having a conversation about
Mhm,
that right brain, left brain.
mhm.
Right. And so there's that one brain part of it is those numbers and everything, but then there's that other side of the brain that's about the arts. So definitely
Nice.
believe in STEAM, no
Mhm.
question. And you've
No
got so
question.
many artists like Herbie Hancock, for example. He was an engineer. You have Joshua Redmond, the incredible saxophonist. He was going to be a doctor.
Wow.
So definitely connected. I supported before leaving Northrop Grumman, the Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz. And they
Nice.
did a program called Math and Music in the Classroom. So it's real. Again, the arts play such a valuable role. We work real close, for example, with Washington Prep High School in Los Angeles. And they have an incredible teacher named Mr. Daryl McCain, and he teaches filmmaking. And he
Wow.
often tells a story of how, for example, this year we were going to still do our programs online. And he said, Sandra, my kids need to be able to get into a theater to see that they're creating something that's important and special. And Greg, if you would have seen those young people, we did it at the Pacific Design Center.
Nice.
You would think we gave those kids $1 million, how they interacted and celebrated their films. We gave them all medals and different things like that. And so we've got a host of programs. Sisters are doing it for themselves. This is our 30th year. It's our longest running program. I actually started this program before starting Black Hollywood Education and Resource Center.
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking you mentioned earlier that maybe you were still at Northrop Grumman when we last spoke. I think you might be right. Look, all my friends are, okay, I'm retired now. He's really
I'll
something
call
else.
retirement my new best friend. It allows me to do this work.
Sure, that's
And
right.
for me, this work is so important. When
Mhm.
we go into schools, to hear young people talk about, I want to be a filmmaker, or when you hear a young man or a teacher say, this program saved this kid's life, that this kid got out of a gang because they were able to get a camera in their hand and see what they were able to make and create. So I truly believe in this work. I want little Black girls and Black boys to see themselves on the screen, but I want to see them in a multitude of images and how they're portrayed. And oftentimes, those images have not been kind to us. And that's why we've got to be behind the scenes. That's why sisters are doing it for themselves is so important. We've got to be behind the scenes, helping to direct, helping to write, helping to shoot, how we look on screen, and different things like that.
Mhm, mhm. All right. What's the date of Sisters for Themselves, doing it for themselves again?
So it's our
May
30th
19th?
anniversary. Sisters are
Yeah.
doing it for themselves May 19th through May 21st at the Directors Guild of America. We're taking over the Directors Guild for 3 days, and that's
Nice.
why we want to fill it up. We want people to come out. We're willing to work with you. We believe we want individuals to see our sisters have the support of our communities. And we also want people to understand that we have diversity within our communities, and we're going to see diverse storytelling and diverse directing. So May
Nice.
19th through the 21st, it's our website is bherc.org, bherc.org, bherc.org.
All right, I'm gonna put that here. Bear with me, all. We'll put that right in the chat right now, so we can have it. And then, of course, we're gonna put up all the information right on Beach City Radio, beachcityradio.com. You said .org. Okay, and all of across our social media platforms, and probably put it on our email database, everything. Just wanted to make sure that you are familiar and ready to go with the Sisters Are Doing It For Themselves Film Festival. Wow. I'm so excited to talk to you today. There's so much more I want to chat with you about, because man, it's the industry is changing so much, and then also access to the technology, I think, is easier now, where people are shooting films on their iPhone. You're right.
You can use this phone.
Yes, and so that's a lot of opportunities out there. Yeah, you want the big studio stuff and all that there. That's the, I guess, the upper 1%, but you still have these stories in our souls that need to be told, especially from our perspective. So you need to go on and get out there and do it. BHERC.org is a good resource to find out information. That's for sure. And yeah, that's it. Any last words you want to say, Sandra Evers Manley? So good to see you today.
Good to see you, Greg. It's always great to see you. Thank you for being an amazing anchor in our community and connector. Thank you for lifting us up and bringing our communities together. One of the things I would just say right now for me, when I hear about a 12-year-old boy being shot and killed, when I think about what's going on in our communities, we've got to come together. And so, anytime we can talk about the importance of the arts, anytime we can talk about the importance of coming together, connecting, and celebrating, it's needed. And so, I am just hopeful that we've got to do more so that our communities can be safe. And I think art is one of those things we can do and we need now more than ever. So I'm honored to be with you. Thank you to your audience. Let's celebrate us, but also there's much work still yet to be done. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandra Evers Manley. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes. You can continue this dialogue watching us on our Facebook page, Coffee Conversations with Greg J, beachcityradio.com, YouTube. Just look out there, Coffee Conversations with Greg J. We're also repurposing the audio for our podcast network wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Just type in Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Always remember, love one another. Love one another. Love one another. Peace and blessings.